Hello, I'm Bernard Hickey from interest.co.nz and welcome to 90 at 9, our morning briefing where you get everything you need to know in 90 seconds at 9 o'clock, starting now. With the shocking news that the US government has taken over Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac over the weekend. This is a sign that the US is so worried about the dire situation in its housing market and the financial system around it that it's decided to pump in $200 billion US in new capital into these federally mandated mortgage providers. They will immediately own 79.9% of the shares in Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, effectively wiping out the shareholders. Also probably wiping out many of those people with preferred shares as well, which includes many of the world's banks. Just to give you an idea of the scale of this problem, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac underwrite about 70% of all US mortgages right now. In many cases, in some states, nearly 100%. And over the last few years, they have guaranteed and underwritten half of the $12 trillion in the US mortgage market. Just to put that into perspective, that's about the same size as the ANZ National loan book as a proportion to our GDP. So just imagine if our government bailed out ANZ National, our biggest bank. Now obviously that's not happening, and in the US, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac aren't part of the banking system. They just underwrite mortgages, they don't do payments overnight. So you could argue it's not quite that bad. But this is a massive development on global financial markets. It's worth asking, what does this mean for us? Well, the credit crunch is obviously getting much worse. Many of the world's banks will be burnt by this. They will have owned shares in Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, either directly or through preferred shares. They will be wiped out, those shares at least. But many will welcome the decisive action because the US housing market is in all sorts of strife, and that's rippled out through the world's financial system. Time will tell how this affects New Zealand. Interest rates will certainly be under pressure to rise, and you have to wonder whether the rate cut that will come on Thursday this week from the Reserve Bank will be passed on in full, given that most of our debt is funded through these offshore markets, which will be so volatile. Immediately though, the New Zealand dollar rose to 67.4 US cents from 66.3 on Friday night. That's because it seems we have a weaker US dollar. I'm Bernard Hickey. That was slightly more than 90 at 9 for interest.co.nz.